Hi students, welcome to PhD Jobs and Admission. This is Gauri, and in today's session we are going to see Pondicherry University's PhD entrance test research methodology subject. And in today's session we are going to see types of hypothesis by using MCQs. There are lots of types of hypothesis such as null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, directive hypothesis, etc. So we are going to see all of these hypothesis types, their definition, their importance in detail, but by using MCQs, because on this topic in PhD entrance test they will ask you 4 to 5 MCQs. That's why after viewing this session your concepts relevant to this topic will get clear. Okay, so students, now let us begin with this session. As you know that there is PhD entrance test at Pondicherry University on 12th and 13th August, and that's why all of you have only minimum days to prepare for PhD entrance test and to qualify the PhD entrance test. So in this PhD entrance test, they will ask you 50% MCQs on research methodology and 50% MCQs on concerned subject. So students, if you want to qualify the PhD entrance test, then you need to score 50% marks. And to qualify this PhD entrance test, we provide research methodology complete course. By using this course, all the students can guaranteed score 50% marks in research methodology itself, and they can qualify the PhD entrance test. In this we provide full syllabus video lectures under which theory and MCQ lecture series are available. We provide full syllabus notes and mock tests. We have 10 mock tests and each mock test contains 40 MCQs. That's why overall all of you can solve 400 MCQs. After solving the mock test, you can understand your preparation level. We provide more than 1500 MCQs revision PDF and more than 100 solved PYQs PDF. By solving this PDF, you can revise all of your topics in a single PDF, and you will get 80% MCQs from these PDFs only out of 100% MCQs in the research methodology section of the PhD entrance test. And PYQs is really very important because most of the MCQs under PYQs are going to be asked repetitively in the PhD entrance test. So whenever you solve all of these PYQs, obviously you can prepare very well. Okay. So students, this study material is available in both the languages, that is Hindi and English. So if you want to buy the complete course, then you can either download the Global Online app by from the Play Store. For that I have given the link in the description box of this video, or else you can contact me through the WhatsApp numbers that I have shown on the screen. The course fees are only 699, and in this low fees we provide guaranteed selection to all the candidates. The topics that I have mentioned on the screen, on all of these topics they will ask you MCQs under research methodology section, and that's why I have completed all of these topics in a complete course. Okay, so students, this research methodology complete course is nothing but a research methodology revision package which will be really very helpful to all the students so that they can guaranteed qualify the PhD entrance test. Okay, so students, basically whenever you buy the complete course, okay, so from buying day until your PhD admission to the university, we provide the proper guidance to all the students. Okay,
Question 1 is match list 1 with list 2. Choose the correct answer from the given codes. So now here we need to match the list 1 with list 2. Now let us see what are these lists. So in list 1 they have given us the types of hypothesis, I mean to say their names, and in list 2 they have given characteristics of hypothesis. So let us see first of all list 1, descriptive hypothesis, null hypothesis, explanatory hypothesis, and alternative hypothesis. Now let us see list 2. First is aims to explain why particular phenomena work in the way that they do, then aims to describe or define the topic, then predicts no effect or no relationship between variables, then provides a chance of discovering new theories, and here they have given us 4 options. So students, as we have seen earlier videos, that null hypothesis means it's a statement which predicts that there is no effect or there is no relationship between the variables, and that's why null hypothesis will match with option 3 over here. Okay, B will go for 3. Then now let us see alternative hypothesis. So alternative hypothesis is exactly opposite to null hypothesis. and within the alternative hypothesis we predicts that there is an effect or there is a relationship between variables, and that's why alternative hypothesis provides a chance to discover new theories by predicting that there is relationship between variables, and that's why D option will go for 4. Okay, then now let us see descriptive. So as the name suggests, descriptive, so within the descriptive hypothesis it describes the topic, and that's why A will go for 2, aims to describe or define the topic, and the remaining option is explanatory, C. Obviously it will match with 1, that is aims to explain why particular phenomena work in the way that they do. Okay, that's why your correct answer is 1, that is A is going for 2, B is going for 3, C is going for 1, and D is going for 4. Okay, now next is a hypothesis that states zero difference or no difference between the parameter and its assumed value is known as. So now here they have given us different types of hypothesis. So from this actually types of hypothesis, which is the hypothesis which states that there is zero difference or there is no difference between the parameter and its assumed value. Okay, so whether it is simple hypothesis, whether it is directional hypothesis, whether it is non-directional hypothesis, or whether it is null hypothesis. So obviously students, as we have seen earlier, that it is called as the null hypothesis. Okay, so within the null hypothesis we predict that there is no effect or there is zero difference between the variables under the study. Okay, and that's why your correct answer is 4, that is null hypothesis. Now let us see one by one all the types of hypothesis. Now simple hypothesis is the type of hypothesis under which we predict that there is a existing relationship between the variables. So basically simple hypothesis describes the population exactly. Okay, so it describes the population as it is. Okay, this is the simple hypothesis, or basically simple hypothesis describes the data distribution. Okay, then next is directional hypothesis. As the name suggests, directional hypothesis. So directional hypothesis predicts both the direction of the results of the hypothesis, and as well it also predicts the relationship between the variables. Okay, and that's why directional hypothesis is the type of alternative hypothesis, okay, under which it can state the direction of the results, and as well it states the relationship between the variables. And non-directional hypothesis is again the type of alternative hypothesis, but here it only gives the prediction about the relationship between the variables. It does not predict about the direction of the results. Okay, so whether it is one-tailed test or two-tailed test, whether it is going to right-tailed or two-tailed, all of right-tailed or left-tailed. Okay, this is actually the non-directional hypothesis. Okay, and that's why whenever we need to test the directional hypothesis, then for that we do the two-tailed test. Okay, two-tailed test. And for non-directional hypothesis, okay, for testing this kind of hypothesis we opt for one-tailed test. All of you getting? And that's why your correct answer is 4.
So students, we provide Pondicherry University PhD entrance test paper to study material also. By using this study material, all the students can guaranteed score more marks in paper 2, that is in concerned subject. In this we provide full syllabus notes and MCQs. In the MCQ section we provide most expected MCQs and PYQs. By solving these MCQs and PYQs, all the candidates can score more marks in paper 2. So the subjects that I have mentioned on the screen, on all of these subjects we provide paper to study material currently. If you want study material for any other subject, then you can ask me in the comment box. Paper to study material fees are only 999, and in this low fees we provide guaranteed selection to all the candidates. Okay, to join our courses you can contact me through the WhatsApp only. The numbers that I have shown on this screen. So students, this paper to study material is really helpful to qualify the PhD entrance test obviously, and also to qualify the interview session, because examiners will ask you a lot of questions about your concerned topic in interview session. So you can do the inquiry for paper 2 also, and it is really helpful for your guaranteed selection. Okay.
Hypothesis that is alternative to null hypothesis is represented as. Now the hypothesis which is alternative to null hypothesis or which is opposite to null hypothesis is represented as what? Whether it is H0 or H1 or H ALT or H is not equal to 0. So basically students, null hypothesis suggest that or predict that there is zero relationship between the variables, and that's why the alternative hypothesis to null hypothesis predicts that there is the relationship between the variables. All of you getting? And that's why this kind of hypothesis is called as the alternative hypothesis, or it is also called as the research hypothesis. Okay, and it is denoted by H1 or HA. Okay, all of you getting? And that's why here your correct answer is H1, because alternative hypothesis is denoted by H1, not HALT. So most of the students make mistake in these denotations, but your correct answer is H1 or HA. But here HA option is not given, and that's why your correct answer should be H1. A statement made about a population for testing purpose is called. Okay, so whenever we make a statement about a population for testing purpose, then that statement is called as what? Whether it is called as statistic, whether hypothesis, whether level of significance or test statistic. So obviously students, it is called as hypothesis, because as I have told you in the previous videos that hypothesis is a statement of prediction. In that basically we predicts the results of the research problem, right? And that's why hypothesis is a kind of statement, and we make this a statement based upon the population itself, and by making the hypothesis we can test it. Okay, and that's why it is called as the hypothesis. Okay, and level of significance is the concept which comes under the testing part of hypothesis. Okay, so basically level of significance can be denoted by alpha. So whenever the values of alpha is really very low, then your test results will be more significant. And I have told you in the previous videos when we were seeing about hypothesis testing part. I hope all of you understood these kinds of concept. If not, then you can watch that video. Okay, so students, now what is statistic? So statistic actually includes the lots of data sets, and we need to test those data sets. Okay, this is nothing but the statistic concept. And test statistic means the type of statistical techniques by which we can test the hypothesis. For example, students, t-test is the test statistic, chi-square test is the test statistic, like that. Okay, and that's why here the correct answer is 2, that is hypothesis. If the assumed hypothesis is tested for rejection, considering it to be true, is called. So whenever the assumed hypothesis is tested for its rejection and as well considering that it is true, then it is called as what? So whether it is called as null hypothesis, statistical hypothesis, simple hypothesis, or composite hypothesis. So students, as I have told you in the previous videos as well, there is only the one hypothesis which is called as the null hypothesis, and that only we are going to test. Okay, we don't test other types of hypothesis in the research process. All of you getting? And that's why your correct answer should be 1. because basically null hypothesis predicts that there is the zero relationship between the variables, and for that only we need to test the null hypothesis so that we can reject it. And after rejection of null hypothesis, we can automatically accept the alternative hypothesis which predicts that there is relationship between the variables. All of you getting? And that's why if the assumed hypothesis is tested for rejection considering it to be true, then it is called as the null hypothesis. Okay. Statistical hypothesis is the type of hypothesis into which basically this hypothesis is tested based upon the sample. Okay, it is tested based upon the sample. Okay, simple hypothesis simply suggest, or the relationship which is there already between the variables, and that's why simple hypothesis only describes the distribution of the data under the population under study. And what is composite hypothesis? Okay, so composite hypothesis is again the type of hypothesis, and in this basically hypothesis we don't actually assign the values of the variables. So basically we don't understand exactly the values of variables under the composite hypothesis. All of you getting? And it is called as the composite hypothesis, and that's why here your correct answer is null hypothesis. Next, a statement whose validity is tested on the basis of a sample is called. Now this kind of concept we have seen in the previous question, that so what is the type of hypothesis whose validity is tested based on the sample? Okay, so whether it is null hypothesis or statistical hypothesis or simple hypothesis or composite hypothesis. As I have told you earlier that it is called as the statistical hypothesis. So statistical hypothesis is the statement whose validity is tested on the basis of a sample. Okay, and that's why it is called as the statistical hypothesis. Okay, and I hope all of you understood exactly what is null hypothesis, then simple hypothesis and composite hypothesis. And one more thing is that I know the concept of composite hypothesis is little bit difficult to understand, but here actually you can't exactly give the numerical value, okay, to the null hypothesis specifically. In the composite hypothesis you can only give the information about the null hypothesis. You can only basically give the information about the variables, but you can't exactly assign the value to the variables under study. All of you getting? And basically this kind of statement whenever we make regarding null hypothesis or alternative hypothesis, then that kind of hypothesis will be called as composite hypothesis. All of you getting? Okay, and that's why your correct answer over here is statistical hypothesis, which is a statement whose validity is tested on the basis of a sample. Now next is a hypothesis which defines the population distribution is called. Now from these types of hypothesis, which is the hypothesis which defines the population distribution? So whether it is null hypothesis, whether it is statistical hypothesis, simple or composite hypothesis. So obviously it is called as the simple hypothesis. So simple hypothesis only defines the population distribution. For example, there is an existing relationship between the variables, then simple hypothesis only defines the relationship between the variables. That's it, and that's why it is called as the simple hypothesis, because it's very simple. Okay. Now next, if the null hypothesis is false, then which of the following is accepted? Now this is the easiest question. When there is null hypothesis and which is false, okay, then after that what type of hypothesis we accept? Whether we accept again null hypothesis, whether we accept positive hypothesis, whether we accept negative hypothesis or whether we accept alternative hypothesis. So obviously students, whenever the null hypothesis is false, then in that situation we automatically accept the alternative hypothesis, and that's why your correct answer is 4, that is alternative hypothesis. The type of test is defined by which of the following? So from which of the following hypothesis types the type of test is defined? Okay, type of test means what kind of test you are going to do in your whole research process is defined, and as well what kind of variables there will be, what kind of relationship between the variables there will be, we are going to define. Okay, so whether it is null hypothesis, whether it is simple hypothesis, alternative hypothesis or composite hypothesis. So from these hypothesis types, now you will understand that there is only the alternative hypothesis under which we exactly predict that the relationship between the variables, right? And that's why this is only the hypothesis type by which type of test is defined. Okay, and that's why your correct answer over here is 3, that is alternative hypothesis, and the remaining options get eliminated. Those are null hypothesis, simple hypothesis and composite hypothesis. Okay, now next is alternative hypothesis is also called as. So what is the different name for alternative hypothesis? Whether it is composite hypothesis, research hypothesis, simple hypothesis or null hypothesis. As I have told you earlier in this video that alternative hypothesis is also called as research hypothesis, and that's why the correct answer is 2, that is research hypothesis. Okay, so students, thank you for watching this session. I hope all of you understood the different types of hypothesis. As I have told you that null hypothesis is the hypothesis, okay, which is going to be tested in a whole research process. Then the alternative to null hypothesis is called as alternative or research hypothesis. Okay, then there is another type of hypothesis which is called as the simple hypothesis. Okay, which is a very simple statement and it basically describes the population distribution under study. Then another is statistical hypothesis whose validity is tested based upon the sample. Then there is composite hypothesis, and we don't exactly give the exact values of the variables, okay, under this kind of hypothesis. Then there is directional and non-directional hypothesis, which are the subtypes of alternative hypothesis. So all of these are the basic types of hypothesis, and you need to understand the concepts behind it, exactly what is the definition of each and every type of hypothesis. Okay, so but still if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comment box of this video.